So let's talk about the role of a car accident lawyer and what they do and why you would even need one after a car accident. So typically what happens is you're in a car accident and then maybe you get some medical treatment and then you're wondering, do I need a car accident lawyer? Is this something I can handle on my own? Well, a car accident lawyer does a couple things. First, they will investigate the case on your behalf. So they will speak to witnesses and they will sometimes even get recorded statements. They'll do an investigation into how the accident happened, and there could be other factors at play. So, for example, if there was something dangerous about that intersection, maybe the government's at fault, or the person that caused the accident, if they were working at the time, or maybe someone else is responsible. They would investigate that. They would figure out the amount of insurance available. They'd figure out how much insurance you have that you'd be able to tap into if you have what's called uninsured or underinsured motorist, if the other person doesn't have insurance. They would do a background check on the other person, maybe checking with the Department of Motor Vehicles if it's in California to see if this person maybe has a bad driving record. So there's all sorts of investigation that can happen. If the police come and do their own investigation, you may get that report, and you'll see it's fairly limited in what they're investigating. And even if the police reports against you, your lawyer could do some further investigation to help you and show that you're not at fault. So that can happen also. Your lawyer would also get the medical records. So they would and help you find doctors oftentimes. So if you don't have health insurance or there's some problem with you being able to use your health insurance, sometimes lawyers like myself will help you find doctors that will treat as part of the case. You still have to pay them no matter what, and usually they get paid at the end of the case. They will make sure that you're seeing the right doctor. So what I've seen is that people will use their health insurance, they'll go to their primary care doctor, but then it's for some reason they can't go to a specialist or they don't get sent to the right doctor or they're complaining about things, but maybe they need another opinion, a second opinion. I see that a lot with head injuries, for example, where people are telling me they're forgetful and maybe they're having issues remembering things or doing their job. At that point, oftentimes I'll recommend that even through their health insurance, try to see a neurologist or try to get some sort of imaging done of their brain to see if that would help. So that's another thing that the lawyer would do. The lawyer would then collect all this information, and then usually they present what's called a demand to the insurance company, trying to get the case resolved. The role of your lawyer could also include evaluating the case and what is a reasonable settlement offer. And as a lawyer, they tend to have a lot of experience knowing what is a reasonable settlement amount and what would be reasonable in your particular case. They'll negotiate with the insurance company, and based on that experience, they'll advise you whether the settlement offer is reasonable or not and whether you should file a lawsuit. And then, of course, the lawyer has the ability to file a lawsuit, go to court on your behalf, and go all the way to trial or appeal as far as it needs to go in order to get the justice that you need. So that's a lot of things that your lawyer will do for you. And in lawyers like myself, we don't charge any money up front. So it's all a percentage of what we can recover. And obviously some cases work out and other cases don't work out, or there's facts that come up that we didn't know about, or some other issues that can affect the value of the case. And your lawyer would explain that all to you. Of course, there are times when you can handle your own case. Usually I see that in cases where there's very limited or a small amount of medical treatment or bills, because there realistically isn't much for your lawyer to do. They just get the same records that you'd be able to get and the bills, and maybe there isn't much to argue about. There's a couple visits, medical treatment, a little bit of follow-ups, and that's the end of the case. That may be something you can handle. Another thing to keep in mind is that you can always file a small claims court case, even in a auto accident. And in a small claims court, lawyers are not allowed to be there unless there's some very specific reason. But in an auto case, lawyers are not allowed to be there, and you can represent yourself. In California, or at least LA, Los Angeles, I believe it's 7,500 is the limit for small claims for an auto case. So you can effectively argue up to that amount in small claims and recover that amount on your own and not have to split it with an attorney. So sometimes there's a really good reason why you don't need an attorney. You may want to speak to an attorney anyway just to get their evaluation on the case. I know in my own cases, I often tell people that you don't need me. That sounds like a small case, and you could probably represent yourself in this case. And so most lawyers like myself would be willing to tell you, hey, you don't need a lawyer on this case. And the reason I do that, at least, is because number one, I try to focus on handling cases where I think I can add a lot more value. And the other reason is that I want my clients to be happy at the end, and they're not going to be happy if I tell them, guess what, we just settled for a small amount of money and I'm taking a percentage of it. So those are a couple different things that your lawyer would do in their role as your lawyer in a car accident.